I stood on my son's porch, holding a bottle of wine I'd picked carefully from the store, my hands shaking slightly from nerves. This was supposed to be a good night. Tyler had invited me over to finally meet Megan's parents, the Harrisons, after 3 years of marriage. 3 years of excuses about scheduling conflicts and their busy social calendar. Tonight was supposed to change everything. I rang the doorbell and smoothed down my shirt. It wasn't expensive, just a clean button-down from JCPenney and my good khakis. I'd even gotten a haircut that morning. The door opened, and Megan stood there in a cream-colored dress with pearls around her neck. Her smile was bright, but something about it made my stomach tighten. "Frank," she said, not moving from the doorway, "there's been a change of plans." Behind her, I could see Tyler in the living room, but he wasn't looking at me. He was studying the floor like it held all the answers to life's mysteries. I could hear voices, laughter, the clink of glasses. The dinner was happening. Right now. Without me. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Megan's smile never wavered. "My parents are here, and honestly, Frank, you're just not classy enough to meet them. I think it's best if you leave." The words hit me like a physical blow. Not classy enough. I stood there, frozen, the wine bottle suddenly feeling like it weighed 100 pounds. Through the doorway, I saw a movement. A woman in an expensive-looking dress glanced my way, then quickly looked away. A man's deep laugh echoed from somewhere inside. "Tyler." I called out, my voice cracking slightly. My son finally looked up. Our eyes met for just a second before he looked away again, his face red. He didn't say a word, didn't offend me, didn't tell his wife she was wrong. He just stood there, letting it happen. "I'm sorry, Frank," Megan said, already closing the door. "Maybe another time." The door shut with a soft click that somehow sounded deafening. I stood there on the porch, staring at the closed door, hearing the laughter resume inside. Someone said something I couldn't quite make out, and multiple people laughed. Were they laughing at me? I walked back to my truck, on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. My hands trembled as I set the wine bottle on the passenger seat. I'd driven 40 minutes to get here. 40 minutes of practicing what I'd say, imagining how nice it would be to finally connect with Megan's family, to feel like I was truly part of my son's life again. Not classy enough. I started the engine and pulled away from the curb. In my rear-view mirror, I could see the warm light glowing from Tyler's windows. Could imagine him all inside, having a wonderful evening without me. The outsider, the embarrassment, the father who wasn't good enough. The drive home took forever and no time at all. I don't remember most of it. My mind kept replaying those words, that smile, the way Tyler couldn't even look at me. 43 years I'd been his father. 43 years of Little League games and school plays and late-night talks when he was scared or confused or excited about life. And he just stood there, silent, while his wife called me not classy enough. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the truck for a long time. The house was dark. It had been dark a lot since Claire passed away 5 years ago. She would have known what to do. She would have marched right up to that door and given them all a piece of her mind, then dragged Tyler home by his ear despite him being 32 years old. The thought almost made me smile. Almost. Inside, I set the wine bottle on the kitchen counter and stared at it. $25. I'd spent 30 minutes in the wine aisle reading labels, asking the store clerk for recommendations, wanting to bring something nice, something classy. I laughed, but it came out wrong, choked and bitter. My phone sat on the counter where I'd left it. No messages, no apology from Tyler, nothing. I picked it up, scrolled through our text history. 2 weeks ago, he'd sent me a message about coming over for dinner, how Megan's parents would finally be in town, how much they wanted to meet me. Had that been a lie, or had something changed? I made coffee even though it was past 9 o'clock. My hands were steadier now, but my chest still felt tight, like someone had wrapped a band around my ribs and was slowly tightening it. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Claire and I had shared thousands of meals, where Tyler had done his homework every night, where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays and ordinary Tuesdays. Not classy enough. What did that even mean? I'd worked as a postal carrier for 35 years before retiring. I owned my house outright, paid my bills on time, volunteered at the community center on weekends. I wasn't rich, but I'd never pretended to be. I'd raised my son to value character over status, kindness over cash. Apparently, somewhere along the way, those lessons hadn't stuck. The coffee grew cold while I sat there, staring at nothing. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. My heart jumped. Tyler, I thought. Finally calling to apologize, to explain, to say something. But it wasn't Tyler. It was Bill, my oldest friend. Frank, you still up? Need to talk to you about something. Can I come by? I stared at the message. Bill lived 3 houses down, and usually just walked over if he wanted to talk. The fact that he was asking permission meant something was wrong. Or maybe he'd heard what happened. Small neighborhood. People talked. Doors unlocked. I typed back. 5 minutes later, Bill was sitting across from me at the kitchen table, his weathered face showing concern. He'd been my friend since we were both young male, carriers learning the routes together. Now we were both retired, both widowed, both trying to figure out what the rest of our lives looked like. Tyler called me, Bill said without preamble. Asked me to check on you. I stared at Bill, processing what he'd just said. Tyler called you? About an hour ago. Bill leaned back in his chair, studying me with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. Said there was an incident tonight. Said his wife's parents were over and things got uncomfortable. Asked if I'd make sure you were okay. The fact that Tyler had called Bill instead of calling me directly somehow made everything worse. What else did he say? Not much. He sounded stressed. Guilty, maybe. Bill drummed his fingers on the table. You want to tell me what happened? I told him. The whole humiliating story spilled out. Megan blocking the door, her cruel words, Tyler's silence, the closed door and the laughter. By the time I finished, Bill's face had gone red. That's the most disrespectful thing I've ever heard, he said. Your own son just stood there? He didn't say a word. Bill shook his head slowly. You know what Claire would have done. I was just thinking the same thing. I managed a small smile. She would have raised hell. Damn right she would have. Bill was quiet for a moment, then leaned forward. Frank, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to hear me out before you react. Okay. The serious tone in his voice made me nervous. Okay. You remember about 6 months ago when I mentioned running into Megan's father at the bank? When I was setting up that new account after selling my rental property. I nodded slowly. Bill had mentioned it in passing. Something about Megan's father, Gerald Harrison, being there with a stack of papers, looking stressed. I didn't think much of it at the time, Bill continued, but I ran into an old friend last week. Guy named Tom who works in the county recorder's office. We got a talking and your son's name came up. Tom mentioned something interesting about property records. What kind of something? Bill hesitated. The Harrison's house. That big place over on Oakmont Drive that they're always bragging about? According to Tom, there was a mortgage transfer filed a few months ago. The original lender sold the note to another company. I frowned. Is that unusual? Not by itself. Banks sell mortgages all the time. But Tom said the way it was filed caught his attention. It was marked as a distressed asset sale. That usually means the borrower was behind on payments and the original bank wanted to get off their books. The information settled over me slowly. The Harrisons, with their expensive cars and country club memberships and their daughter, who wore pearls to a casual dinner, might be struggling financially. It didn't change what had happened tonight, but added context I hadn't expected. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Bill met my eyes. Because people who are drowning sometimes lash out at others to make themselves feel bigger. And because you deserve to know that the people who called you not classy enough might be putting on their own show. We sat in silence for a while. Finally, Bill stood up. Get some sleep, Frank. Tomorrow's a new day. After he left, I sat at the table for another hour, thinking. The house was too quiet. I kept expecting Claire to walk in from the bedroom, to sit with me, to tell me everything would be okay. But the house stayed quiet, and I stayed alone. Sleep didn't come easy that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Megan's face, that perfect smile delivering those cutting words. I saw Tyler looking away, choosing his wife's cruelty over his father's dignity. Around 3 in the morning, I gave up and went to the living room. My laptop sat on the desk in the corner, mostly used for checking email and reading news. I opened it now with a purpose I didn't fully understand yet. Bill's words kept echoing in my head. Distressed asset sale. Mortgage transfer. I'd spent 35 years as a postal carrier, but before that, I'd taken some college courses in business administration before Claire got pregnant, and we decided I needed steady income instead of degree. I still remembered the basics. I opened the county recorder's website. It was clunky and old-fashioned, but public records were public for a reason. I typed in the Harrison's address, 2847 Oakmont Drive. Hit search. The records came up slowly. Property purchased 12 years ago for $485,000. A mortgage taken out for $388,000. Standard 30-year fixed rate. Then, 3 months ago, a transfer of note. The original lender was Coastal Bank. The new holder was listed as Clearview Asset Management. I opened a new tab and searched for Clearview Asset Management. It took some digging, but I found them. They were a small company that specialized in purchasing distressed mortgages at a discount, then either working out payment plans of the borrowers or foreclosing and selling the properties. Not exactly predatory, but definitely bottom feeders in the financial ecosystem. Another search showed me something interesting. Clearview's website had a section for investors interested in purchasing individual mortgage notes. They sold the mortgages they bought in bulk, piece by piece, to private investors looking for steady income streams. I stared at that page for a long time. An idea was forming, crazy and probably vindictive, but it wouldn't leave me alone. I could call the number on the website tomorrow, just to ask questions, just understand the process. That wasn't wrong, was it? Just gathering information? The sky was starting to lighten outside my window when I finally closed the laptop. I'd made no decisions, taken no actions, just looked at publicly available information that anyone could access. But something had shifted inside me. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was curious. I made coffee and watched the sunrise through the kitchen window. Friday morning. I'd planned to spend the day working the garden, maybe driving to the hardware store for supplies. Normal retirement things. Instead, I found myself planning something entirely different. At 9 o'clock, I called the number for Clearview Asset Management. A woman answered on the third ring, professional and cheerful. Clearview Asset Management. This is Patricia speaking. How can I help you? Hi, Patricia. My name is Frank Cooper. I'm interested in learning about purchasing a mortgage note. Is that something I could speak with someone about? Absolutely. Let me transfer you to our investment department. The investment department connected me with a man named Kyle who had the smooth voice of someone who'd given this pitch 1,000 times. He explained the process clearly. Clearview purchased distressed mortgages at a discount, typically 60 to 70 cents on the dollar, depending on how behind the borrower was and the property's value. They then sold individual notes to private investors for a small markup. It's a win-win situation, Kyle said. We make a profit on the sale, and investors get a secured asset backed by real property that generates steady income through monthly mortgage payments. What if the borrower stops paying? I asked. That's always a risk, which is why we discount the notes. But you have legal options. You could work out a payment plan, or in extreme cases, proceed with foreclosure. Most borrowers work with the new note holder once they realize it's a real person, not a faceless corporation. How long does the purchase process take? If you find a note you're interested in, we can usually close within 2 weeks. We handle all the paperwork, file everything with the county, ensure all the legal requirements are met. You be the official mortgagee, and payments will come directly to you. I took careful notes on a pad of paper. Could you tell me if you have a specific property available? Just to see if this might work for me? Sure, give me the address. I rattled off the Harrison's address. Heard typing on the other end. Okay, let me see. More typing. Yes, we do have that note. It's a good one, actually. Property value is around $600,000 now. Outstanding balance on the mortgage is $247,000. Borrowers are 3 months behind, which is why the original lender sold it to us. 3 months behind. That was worse than Bill had suggested. I did some quick math in my head. At 65 cents on the dollar, the note would cost around $160,000. That's more than I have liquid, I said, which was true. Most of my money was tied up in retirement accounts and my house. We can work with qualified buyers on financing the purchase, Kyle offered, or you might consider a note with a smaller balance. We have dozens available. Let me think about it, I said. This is a big decision. Of course. Take your time. If you're serious about that particular note, though, I should mention we've had 2 other inquiries about it this week. Properties in that neighborhood don't stay available long. After I hung up, I sat at the kitchen table staring at my notes. $160,000. I didn't have that much in easily accessible funds. My retirement accounts had around $280,000 total, but accessing that would mean penalties and taxes. My house was paid off and worth maybe $320,000, but taking out a mortgage at my age seemed insane. Unless I called my bank and asked to speak with someone about home equity lines of credit. The representative who answered asked some basic questions about my property value, income, and credit score. Then she said something that made my heart beat faster. Based on what you're telling me, Mr. Cooper, you'd easily qualify for a line of credit up to $200,000. Your credit is excellent, and you have no existing mortgage. We could have it set up within a week. What would the terms be? She explained the interest rate, draw period, and repayment terms. It was actually reasonable. I could draw what I needed, pay it back as the mortgage payments came in from the Harrisons, and eventually own a valuable asset that would continue generating income. But did I want to do this? This wasn't just gathering information anymore. This was taking action. Significant action. I thought about Megan's face. That smile. Those words. I thought about Tyler standing silent. I thought about 35 years of teaching my son right from wrong, only to watch him choose cruelty over kindness. I'd like to apply, I heard myself say. The next week passed in a blur of paperwork and phone calls. The home equity line of credit was approved on Wednesday. Kyle from Clearview called me twice to follow up, clearly eager to close the deal. By Friday afternoon, I was sitting in a lawyer's office downtown, signing documents that would make me the legal holder of Gerald and Patricia Harrison's mortgage. The lawyer, an older woman named Helen Bradshaw, who specialized in real estate transactions, walked me through every page. She was thorough and patient, explaining each clause of my rights as the new mortgagee. You understand that the borrowers are currently 3 months behind on payments, she said. That gives you certain legal options, but I recommend attempting to work out a payment plan before considering foreclosure. The courts look favorably on lenders who show good faith efforts. I'm not interested in foreclosure, I said. I just want them to honor their obligations. Helen studied me over her reading glasses. May I ask why you're purchasing this particular note? It's unusual for a first-time investor to start with a distressed asset. I met her gaze steadily. Personal reasons. She nodded slowly, not pushing further. We finished the signing, and she handed me a thick folder containing copies of everything. The transfer will be filed with the county on Monday. The borrowers will receive official notification by certified mail within 5 business days. After that, they have 30 days to bring the account current or enter into a payment arrangement with you. I drove home with the folder on my passenger seat, feeling like I'd crossed some invisible line. There was no going back now. In less than 2 weeks, the Harrisons would learn that their mortgage was owned by Frank Cooper, the man who wasn't classy enough to meet them. That evening, Tyler called. It was the first time I'd heard from him since that horrible night. Dad? It's me. Hello, Tyler. I kept my voice neutral. Look, I wanted to apologize for last week. That wasn't right, what Megan said. I should have said something. Yes, you should have. Silence on the other end. Then she was stressed. Her parents are going through some financial stuff, and I think it made her defensive. She shouldn't have taken it out on you. Financial stuff. That was one way to put it. Are you calling because you want to apologize or because Megan told you to? I asked. I want to. I mean, she didn't. Look, can we have dinner? Just us? Maybe tomorrow? I almost said yes. The father in me wanted to forgive, to rebuild, to pretend nothing had happened. But something stronger held me back. I need some time, Tyler. What happened hurt me deeply, and your silence hurt even more. I know. I'm sorry. I really am. I believe you're sorry. But sorry doesn't change what happened. I need to think about things. We ended the call awkwardly. After he hung up, I sat holding the phone, feeling the weight of what I'd set in motion. Part of me wondered if I was making a terrible mistake. The other part remembered standing on that porch, humiliated, while people laughed inside. Monday morning, I got a call from Helen Bradshaw. The transfer has been filed, Mr. Cooper. Everything is official. The notification letters should be delivered by Wednesday. Thank you, Helen. One more thing. I took the liberty of reviewing the payment history more closely. The Harrisons weren't just 3 months behind. They've been consistently late for the past 8 months. Usually by 2 or 3 weeks, but late nonetheless. The previous lender was apparently being lenient. I see. Just wanted you to be aware. This suggests ongoing financial stress rather than a temporary setback. You might want to consider how you'll handle the situation when they contact you. After she hung up, I made a pot of coffee and sat at the kitchen table with a folder of documents. I read through everything again, making notes, highlighting key passages. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. Legally, ethically by the book. By Wednesday afternoon, I was ready. Wednesday evening, my phone rang. A known number. I answered it anyway. Is this Frank Cooper? A man's voice, tight with stress and poorly suppressed anger. Speaking. This is Gerald Harrison. I just received a very disturbing letter claiming that you now hold a mortgage on my property. This has to be some kind of mistake or fraud. My mortgage is with Coastal Bank. Was with Coastal Bank. I corrected calmly. They sold your note to Clearview Asset Management 3 months ago. I purchased it from Clearview last week. The transaction is fully legal and has been filed with the county recorder's office. Silence. Then, who the hell are you? Why would you buy my mortgage? I'm Tyler's father. More silence. Longer this time. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head, trying to place me, trying to understand. Tyler? Megan's husband? That's right. We met briefly. Well, we almost met. You were at my son's house about 10 days ago. I was turned away at the door before introductions could be made. I heard him breathing on the other end. Then this is insane. You can't just buy someone's mortgage for revenge, or whatever sick game this is. Actually, Mr. Harrison, I can. Mortgages are bought and sold every day. It's perfectly legal. And I'm not playing a game. I'm a legitimate mortgage holder. And according to my records, you're currently 3 months behind on payments. That's $12,473 in arrears. We've been working on that. We have an arrangement with the bank. You had an arrangement with Coastal Bank. That arrangement ended when they sold your note. You now have an arrangement with me. Or rather, you need to establish one. His voice went cold. What do you want? What I want is for you to honor your legal obligations, bring the account current, and continue making timely monthly payments as specified in your mortgage agreement. That's all. And if we can't pay it all at once, then we discuss a payment plan. I'm willing to be reasonable, Mr. Harrison, but I do expect regular payments and good faith communication. I'm not a bank that you can string along indefinitely. He hung up without responding. I set down the phone, my hand shaking slightly. It was done. He knew. Soon Megan would know, and Tyler would know. The next morning, Tyler was at my door before 8 o'clock. He looked like he hadn't slept. Did you really buy Megan's parents' mortgage? He asked the moment I opened the door. Good morning, Tyler. Would you like some coffee? Dad, I'm serious. Did you do this? I stepped aside. Come in. He followed me to the kitchen, pacing while I poured 2 cups of coffee. His nervous energy filled the small space. "It's legal," I said, setting a cup in front of him. "Public records. Legitimate transaction. Everything properly filed and documented. Why would you do something like this? This is crazy. I don't even know what this is." I sat down across from him. "You want to know why?" "Because I was humiliated. Because your wife told me I wasn't classy enough to meet her parents, and you stood there and let it happen. Because I'm tired of being treated like I'm worthless just because I don't have money to throw around. So you bought their mortgage? That's your solution? Revenge. It's not revenge. It's business. They owe money. They're behind on payments. I'm now the person they owe. If they pay on time, we'll have no problems." Tyler ran his hands through his hair. "Megan is furious. She says you're trying to destroy her family. I'm trying to collect on a legitimate debt. If that's destroying them, maybe they shouldn't have borrowed money they couldn't pay back. Her father lost his job 8 months ago. They're struggling. Then they should have been honest about that instead of pretending to be something they're not, instead of looking down on people like me who actually pay their bills." Tyler stood abruptly. "I can't believe you do this. To them. To me. I didn't do anything to you, Tyler. I bought a mortgage. That's all. You know, this is about more than just a mortgage." "Yes," I said quietly. "It is. It's about respect. It's about being treated like I matter. And maybe it's about teaching you that actions have consequences." He left without finishing his coffee. Before you continue watching this story, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We share powerful stories about family, justice, and standing up for yourself. Drop a comment below telling us what time it is where you're watching from, and let us know what you think about Frank's decision so far. Your support helps us keep bringing you these stories. Now let's continue. The days after my confrontation with Tyler were quiet. Too quiet. He didn't call. Didn't text. It felt like the night on the porch all over again. Except this time, the silence stretched longer and hurt deeper. Bill stopped by on Saturday morning, finding me in the garden where I was pulling weeds with maybe more aggression than necessary. "Heard you caused quite a stir," he said, settling into one of the lawn chairs on my patio. "News travels fast. It's a small world. Tyler's not speaking to you." I yanked out a particularly stubborn dandelion. "Not since Thursday. Megan's upset. Says I'm trying to destroy her family." "Are you?" I looked at Bill. "No. I'm trying to collect a debt they legally owe." "Is that wrong?" "Legally? No. Morally?" Bill shrugged. "That's between you and your conscience. But I'll tell you this." You got them scared. "Patricia Harrison was at the grocery store yesterday, and when she saw me, she practically ran the other way." I sat back on my heels. Considering this, I don't want them scared. I just want them to pay what they owe and maybe think twice before treating people like garbage. Sometimes those two things go together. Bill said, "Look, I'm not judging you. After what they did, they earned whatever comes next. Just make sure you know what your end game is here, because this could go a lot of different ways." That afternoon, I received an email from Gerald Harrison. The tone was more measured than our phone call, probably written and rewritten several times. He proposed paying $2,000 immediately to show good faith, then $1,500 per month until the arrears were covered, at which point they resumed regular mortgage payments. I calculated quickly. At that rate, it would take them about 8 months to catch up. Meanwhile, I'd be making interest on a line of credit I'd used to buy the note. It wasn't ideal, but it was reasonable. I replied accepting his proposal, with one addition. All payments must be made by the first of each month, no exceptions. Any missed or late payment would result in immediate acceleration of the full amount due. His response came an hour later. One word, agreed. I printed the email exchange and filed it carefully in the folder with all the other documents. Everything documented. Everything by the book. That evening, I drove to the community center where I'd been volunteering for the past few years. They ran programs for seniors, after-school care for kids, and a food bank. I usually help with the food bank on weekends, sorting donations and packing boxes. When I walked in, Nancy, the director, greeted me with her usual warm smile. Nancy was maybe 60, with gray hair cut short and laugh lines around her eyes. She'd been running this place for 20 years, keeping going through funding cuts and economic downturns through sheer force of will. Frank, perfect timing. We just got a huge donation, King Goods, and I'm drowning in boxes. I spent the next 3 hours sorting, stacking, and organizing. It was simple work, but satisfying. Real. When I was done, my back ached and my hands were dusty, but I felt more centered than I had all week. "You're a lifesaver," Nancy said, handing me a bottle of water. "We couldn't do this without volunteers like you." "Happy to help." She studied me for a moment. "You okay, Frank? You seem a bit off tonight." I considered deflecting, but Nancy had a way of seeing through people. "Family stuff. My son and I are going through a rough patch." "I'm sorry to hear that. Families are complicated." "That's an understatement." She patted my arm. "Whatever it is, it'll work itself out. You're a good man. Frank Cooper. Your son knows that." I wished I had her certainty. 2 weeks passed. The first payment from the Harrisons arrived on time, a check for $2,000 delivered by certified mail. I deposited it, noted it in my records, and filed a receipt. Life settled into a strange new normal. I kept volunteering at the community center, worked in my garden, had coffee with Bill most mornings. Tyler didn't call. Part of me wanted to reach out, but stubbornness kept my phone in my pocket. On a Thursday afternoon, I was at the hardware store buying mulch when I ran into someone I hadn't seen in years. "Frank Cooper? Is that you?" I turned to find Helen Bradshaw, the lawyer who'd handled my mortgage purchase, standing in the garden supplies aisle. "Helen, good to see you."